Hi, so just to describe a little bit of what I'm trying to do is basically this sphere here is moving now, and I want to lock it off at some point to do the rest of the effects. And my plan with that is we have some projectiles coming into the room, hitting the shield, and those impact points will be the source of all the effects afterwards. So basically, as soon as a projectile hits the shield, that becomes a source for the volume sim, for the particle sims, and everything else, even for the base advector volume sim. So we will be emitting volume into here, and I need that source to be every time a point hits. So my idea with that is just to scatter points randomly on the surface every frame, and then use those points to drive every source after that. So what I'm doing here is I've just put down a point SOP to set some point normals, and I'm going to write that out. It's nice and quick. And then we'll move on to the scattering of the points to use as our source. So there we have it. So at the moment this is still moving, which is fine for now. So let's put down a scatter. And I only need this to well, let me put $F in the global seed. So every single frame we get a new impact point. That's a bit much. So something like that. So this sphere will be essentially getting hit by hundreds of bullet impacts. And then I just want to remove any that aren't facing in this direction based on that normal. So the room, we're looking down in the z-axis, so I can just set, so let's just scatter some more. I'll just put down a delete here. Delete points. That are positive on Z. Oh, no, negative. And then even more. So we need any Z normal less than 0.5 will be removed. So we're only keeping these ones that are pretty much facing in that direction. So those can be our impact points. So here I'm going to just emit a particle for each one. So basically what I want is as usual, and I think I did this with the portal as well, it's basically, I need a point to exist that has age and has whatever attributes that usually come with a pop that give me a lot more control. I could just generate my own attribute for age, but I mean, if I don't need the points to move, then I can just use a pop net. So we'll just use all those points. We don't need any velocity. And I want them to exist for exactly 2 frames. My thought process for that is when we go on to do the projectiles, I can actually use these pops and copy a line, and all you need is 2 frames, basically a frame here of a projectile and then impact frame, and that solves the complete contact. So we'll probably tackle that still a few more videos down the line. But for now, I know I basically need my life to be 2 frames. So 2 divided by 24. So this helps as well for our sourcing. I can't just have a point existing for a frame. It helps to have, where are they? It helps to have them come into existence and then at least last for 1 more frame to source the volume or the pops or whatever before they disappear. And it also gives us range on a ramp if we're using age. So that's our basic impact pop. I'm just gonna save. And now what do we need? So I need to basically, I'm going to use another copy, and I'm going to copy a small sphere on here. So something to really easily represent our sourcing, and I can actually use the normals from those as well for velocity. So let's just try some stuff. So I am going to, actually I've just thought I need to get rid of the start here and the end. We might as well do it here before the pop. So I'm just going to use a switch and a null. So we'll say let me just get my timings right. So he starts relaxing around there, so let's say 163. So after 163, it will switch to the null, and then before 124. So if we end up adding some other gunfire or projectiles around the environment, we can do that in a separate network somewhere. But for the sources for the magic effect, we just need it to appear at the time the shield appears. So, and I always forget this. So $F less than 124, and then it's either and or. So if it's less than 124, then it's the null. Then it switches back to the points. And then after 163, it switches back to the null. So that's basically our sourcing range set. So we can copy and paste this and use it wherever else we need the shield to appear or disappear. So I'm going to use that now and just take the actual shield as well. So this is not necessarily to be rendered, but to use as collision objects or sources. We have everything based off of this timing. So I have these spheres now, and I basically want to lock this off at this point and move it back to the origin. Something to just double check, if these points are existing for more than 1 frame, then they'll actually be slightly offset. You see there, because they left behind while the portal is moving back. So I'm also going to array these points onto the moving sphere. just to be sure. And then here I'll just do $CEX, CEY, CEZ times -1. Oh, we don't want that. No, I need to use the centroid of the actual sphere. So let's use this. I don't want that because that's putting the centroid of the sources, but I need them to be relative in space to the size of the sphere. So we'll do centroid like that. And this is because I'm using the centroid of the animated sphere. So I'm going to use this one instead. Well, that's not fixing the problem. Oh no, it is. Yeah, that works. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste this. So there we go. Hold on, I still have an issue here. So actually I have these points existing too early. Why is that? They should be gone. Maybe I just haven't refreshed the popnet. There we go. So there is no source before 124. So I could actually switch this back to the moving version. The one without the sourcing, but this is fine. So let's double check that again. So we have the shield at the origin, and we have the source spheres there as well. Okay, and now let's scatter a bunch of points on this shield. And you know I'm going to use an attribute transfer. So let's just go with a bunch. And I'll set that to black. And these ones to white. And I'm going to set a velocity. I want color and velocity to be transferred, and then we can just keep the white points and they'll have input velocity that we can use as our volume sim source. So here we've got these normals. So we'll set velocity to n. So something like that. Something else I might want to do is scale these up. So this is it's either a long or a short process, just depending on how much you want to experiment. I'm kind of changing direction constantly and thinking of extra things to change or try on the fly. So it does take me a while if I have enough time to experiment with different thought processes that come up. So I don't want to spend too long just going off track. I'll just do this one quickly, and then if I think of something else, I might just keep it to myself until I decide to actually try it. So in this case, I'm going to use that age attribute we were talking about to scale the spheres. So the points only exist for 2 frames. Oh, I need to use template point attributes. So I should have an age here, and I'm just trying to use the age to drive the size of the spheres. Which doesn't seem to be working. They're there. Yeah, that works. So we'll get the first frame of the source will be small and then suddenly big and then disappear. And we have a velocity. We don't want to take the velocity from the point cloud here. Now that's weird. This should just be based off the normal of the spheres. Ah, okay, so I shouldn't have been using this. So I don't need age after this point, although I think I might. So I'm actually just going to take age and life. And I'll leave everything else so I get my nice normals. And we'll attribute transfer this. So let's see what we've got. All I need is color and velocity for now. And we'll just blend that a little bit there. So that gives me something to work with, and if I check the velocity, I get a little sort of spread out pattern from those spheres. So that's the benefit of copying spheres onto those points. I'll just increase the resolution there. See, I'm just max sample count. I'll go up to get a more averaged copy transfer there. So that's good, that's working, and I'll delete everything except the white points. There you go. So that's a pretty reliable, pretty procedural source. And anything we do in terms of adding the projectiles in the environment will match up perfectly in timing and in position with these sources. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we've got a moving sphere and we've got sources based on some pops. And they already have some velocity to work with. So I think after this we'll just add some noise to that velocity and set up a smoke sim. So our basic volume sim that we'll use for advection. So I'll catch you in the next video.